The 2023 transfer portal is in full swing. People are signing. We have your transfer portal rankings right here on this channel. We're going to go through all of the commits from every position, and even defensively, we're going to look at the edge rushers, the secondary, everything like that. Dive into some spotlights, what we like, what our values are. If you love college football, we're going to talk about that. If you like the Devy and Campus the Canton leagues, and we're talking about fantasy, we're going to talk about that. Everything in between with the transfer portal rankings, we're going to talk about while the intro is playing. Hit that like and subscribe button for us, and leave a comment after this video. Let us know what we're doing. All right, like I said, we're going to dive into the transfer portal committed and look at everybody who's committed. And obviously, that's Devin Leary. We're going to be talking about him. But let's start it. Let's go to the quarterbacks. So let's look at the quarterbacks. We're going to go through top 14. And we're just looking at kind of where these guys are out there. Now, there's still some people uncommitted. So when we think of best available out there still, Britton Armstrong is still out there, Sam Hartman and Spencer Sanders, and then Grayson McCall. And then Brady Allen just entered as well. So, like, those are your top five still there. But for those of the guys that are committed, here we have Devin Leary, Nick Evers from Wisconsin. And obviously, he's highlighted in the picture. I think Nick Evers is a great pick by Luke Fickell to go to Wisconsin, his quarterback, the former four-star kid. And obviously, he definitely has a private quarterback tutor with Kyler Murray. He has all kinds of things, top-rated quarterbacks. He looks at his Elite 11. Like, Evers is coming in there, and he's going to be a very solid prospect for Wisconsin. Probably the best quarterback prospect. I mean, Graham Mertz was highly recruited, but just as a quarterback, I think Nick Evers is definitely better and further along than he was when he came in. So that's an interesting move. DJU just went to Oregon State. I think that's a great spot for him in terms of how he wants to rehabilitate his career. Phil Jurgen versus Pittsburgh, Jacoby Criswell, Cade McNamara was early in the process. Jeff Sims, Nebraska, Donovan Smith to Houston. I think it's interesting. I love Hudson Card to Purdue. I think that's fun. Shedeur Sanders is someone that we highlighted on this channel already. Go check it out. We're trying to get to that video to 10,000 views. Kyron Drones of Virginia Tech. Mikey King, sneaky to Fresno State. I got to add Fresno State. You guys know if you watch me long enough, I'm a Fresno State guy. Keaton Slovis to BYU, the head scratcher. Drew Pine to Arizona State is a sneaky move that I really do like. But I think Nick Evers and, DJU really stand out to me. And then Devin Leary. Like, will he come in there and kind of be that next guy? I think I know why he went there. When we think of Will Levis, what he's able to do. He has Barian Brown. And you're looking at Dane Key, those weapons are going to be fantastic. We're going to talk about a running back that's going there as well. So, like, just looking at the quarterback position, I think, overall, it's an interesting kind of landing spot for some of these guys. And when we're talking about kind of like guys I want to highlight, Donovan Smith to Houston, I thought Donovan Smith was the Texas Tech's best quarterback. And I really thought he had the most upside. Now he's going to Houston, and they need that quarterback position to be solidified. And will he kind of take over there? Hudson Card of Purdue, new regime there. How's that look? Kyron Jones of Virginia Tech, because I think he's sneaky. I think a lot of people hate on Kyron, and I don't understand why. I think him going there is going to be a very good compliment to those players. And so you look at shout out there. But again, let's go over our spotlight here. And the guy that we're going to talk about is Jeff Sims. So Matt Rule's coming over from Carolina after he got fired, and he picked Jeff Sims as his guy. He said he watched 3 or 4 game film, tape, and he liked what he saw. And I think what he liked is that Matt Rule is going to be running RPOs. And Jeff Sims really gets highlighted there in that situation. I mean, you see the numbers, and I think his passing is okay. Like, when you're looking over his junior year was a little bit better in terms of 2021. And now you're looking at, okay, what is he moving forward, going forward here? And so in 2022, as a rusher, obviously he highlighted there, but as a passer, he didn't really get into it. Georgia Tech's offense was bad. There were moments, though. Like, there was moments against Clemson that I saw that he played pretty well. Like, if you go back and watch that tape last year. And so I think that's what Rule really looked at. And he highlighted that Clemson game. And so, like, I thought he showed maturity. So if he can step in and be legitimately that guy, and they say, hey, he's going to come in and do the RPO, run that system, I think Rule's going to kind of run things through him. And I like this. I like this signing for Nebraska. Nebraska fans should be happy because you're getting some guys that, hey, maybe he can kind of step up and be that different quarterback and that difference maker for you. And so I really think that they did well there. Now let's go to the running backs. So let's look at this. Now I will say this, as far as the running backs considered, like, the running backs are probably the least depth of the class, like in terms of the transfer portal, like guys that are going to be difference makers, but there's some solid pieces in here. So here's the top 14 guys. Blake Watson. I think Sean Tyler, someone to really talk about going to Oklahoma State. Obviously, when you're looking at who's going to be there, Ollie Gordon, these other guys, maybe he can step up, right? The Western Michigan running back and kind of be that next step up there. Maybe they're going to, pass catching and those type of things. Ray Davis going to Kentucky, Nathan Carter going from UConn to Michigan State. Michigan State's had really good success in the transfer portal. Kobe Pace playing for his, I think, 17, but looking at Virginia, Marquez Cooper, Cameron Scatterbo is someone we're going to talk about, so I'm not going to mention him here. But look at SMU again. Jalen Knight and LJ Johnson. LJ Johnson was one of our number one recruits when we did the transfer portal, just like update, hey, who's out there? I think, hey, going to SMU though is tough. I mean, Kamar Wheaton's there, Jalen Knight, now LJ. Like, I think it's very crowded now, and that really concerns me overall for these guys as prospects, especially in fantasy. I think SMU's happy, but as fantasy, like, damn, Arlen Harris Jr. I think is an interesting pick. I think I want to highlight two guys here. Justin Williams going to Stanford. Justin Williams was a very sought after kind of freshman going into last season, a 4-star kid going to Tennessee. He just didn't get the run there that people thought he was going to get. But going to Stanford, new offense, old Sacramento State coach going there. He actually had Cameron Scatterbo over there, who's the 7th ranked prospect, over 1,300 yards rushing. And Justin Williams is definitely a better prospect than that. So when we're thinking of that, like, that's something to think about when you're moving forward as a player. Like, these can be some sleepers in your campus to can leagues. I think the Daniel Nagata one, though, from Arizona State, Nagata was a very good prospect. Like, he looked really good at Folsom. I've watched him play in high school. I've seen that. When you're looking at what he did at Arizona State, obviously didn't get up to what he thought he could be. But when he came out of, 247 Sports, out of his running back 4, California's 16th best prospect. So I think Washington is really, he can start right away. I think he can go to Washington and just play running back. Like, I think he's going to go there and produce. Go get him. I think that he's a value there. Now, if we're going to highlight somebody, I definitely want to highlight somebody a little bit like as a sleeper pick, but Cameron Scatterbo from Sacramento State. Again, this is a prospect that I've watched. I saw him last year, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns. He had 371 yards and 3 touchdowns in receiving too. So he had over almost basically 1,700 yards. I'm not a math guy. I'm a history guy, but 1,700 yards. Okay, from the scrimmage, like, you're looking at that, that's pretty good for Cameron. Like, and he's got size, and Arizona State has produced these guys. So Xavier Valadez, somebody I liked, he's going to NFL, so he's moving on. Nagata just transferred, so you're looking at that. Open it up, new coaching staff. Dillingham, what's he going to do? He picked this guy to come there. So when you're thinking of like commits, where he goes, you get on him early, like, see what he can be. I think that he's a value, late round pick. Grab him, get some production out of Arizona State, that sneaky Pac-12 production that we see, and just interesting to watch. And Arizona State fans, you guys should be happy. Your coach is starting to build up some guys in this class, and I think that's a value to be had in terms of what he's trying to do there and what he's trying to accomplish. Now, let's go to wide receiver, which is the deepest. So one thing I'm going to tell you guys right now, this freaking wide receiver stuff is deep as heck. I could have put 30 guys on this thing just based on the guys who are down there at the bottom. But if we're going to go overall, just what we're looking at is, here's the top 16. Now, we're going to say Travis Hunter is a corner, so he's not going to be on the wide receiver one here. So we're going to talk about him earlier, a little bit later when we get in the secondary. But he could be on here too for Colorado. He'd be number one. Dual spot athlete. What is Travis Hunter going to do? But Dorian Singer going to USC. I think that's a big one. We're going to highlight him. Dominic Levitt to Georgia, Andrew Armstrong, JoJo Earl. Man, TCU got a good one here with Alabama transfer JoJo Earl. Put him in the slot, let him move. I think this offense highlights him perfectly. I think he's going to do very well there. And I think, one thing that be concerned about a little bit is and not with JoJo, but with like Devontae Walker. So Walker is coming over from Kent State, and people are really high on him. 4-star transfer, into the portal, 91 average rating in terms of what he's doing. And everybody's talking about him being the next Josh Downs. I think we have to be very careful with his production. We saw a lot of kids jump to Power 5 schools, especially wide receivers, jump to Power 5 schools and struggle. And I think that's something to be aware of when we're drafting these guys. And Devy and C2C is like, hey, they struggle. Like, a lot of these guys struggle when they took that jump. Not everybody. Jacob Cowan did okay in these types of groups, but some struggled really, really, mightily. And so I think Devontae Walker is going to get bumped up too high for me to feel comfortable drafting him. That's just something to note when we're kind of talking about this. Chris Marshall, Trey Harris, both going to Ole Miss. Chris Marshall's former 5-star kid, 4-star kid going from A&M. Excellent job by Lane grabbing these guys. Aaron Anderson going to LSU. Trayshawn Holden, sneaky to Oregon. Malik Washington is someone I've always really liked. Northwestern just was terrible offense. He's an interesting add in Virginia. A lot of different movement. I know that offense isn't very good, but if he can be just the target guy, I think he's an interesting add there in terms of Devy, C2C, mostly C2C. Going through Tyrese Chambers, I think is a sneaky add there. When you're looking at what he could do and what he did at FIU, the production there, and a passing offense is going to throw the ball all the way around, that just lost Raheem Jarrett, and we're thinking of these guys that they lost. Like, that's an interesting place for him. My sleeper of this group is Mekhi Jackson. He's going to App State. And Mekhi Jackson, I think, could be an interesting ad out there for you guys, because I don't think a lot of people know about him. St. Francis is where he played, obviously at the Division, I think, 2 level, but he had 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. He looked really good coming out of there. He's a prospect to watch. I think he's a sneaky guy. So if you're thinking of, hey, who are my sleepers out there, Mekhi would definitely be that. Now, let's go over to the player spotlight and what we're looking at. So Dorian Singer is going to USC. And Dorian had a great year at Arizona. Looking at it, 12 games, 66 receptions, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, 16.7 yards reception. He looked really good, and he's looked good his entire career. Arizona's upset because he went there, USC, transferred out, but I don't blame him. Now, if you're looking at USC's bringing a lot of good guys. Zachariah Branch, a lot of good freshmen. We're still thinking about Williams, who's there, Mario, and you're looking at just the overall Gary Bryant, all these guys that just didn't get any run, and they spread the ball around a lot. So one thing about USC that you need to understand is that they're going to spread the ball around a lot. So I don't know if we're going to see Dorian's numbers pump up. I see some talk about him being the next Jordan Addison. Is that going to happen? I don't know. But Dorian Singer is a guy that could definitely have that production. Now, if he does get that bump, he still has over 1,000 yards. Now we're talking about a first or second round asset that's getting drafted basically in the 5th round of Devy box. He's not a bad dart throw if you have an extra couple picks to go grab him because of that perceived value, right? And he did look really good at Arizona. If he doubles that, he looks really good at USC and doubles down, you could be talking about draft capital that you really like from your wide receiver position. Now, let's move over to the tight end. So let's go take a look at the tight ends and where we're going there. Now, tight ends are pretty deep in terms of just the overall, just what you're looking at. We've talked about Jaheim Bell. Go take a look at Florida State kid. I think that's going to really do well. They also got Kyle Morlock. Florida State's been really doing well in this portal. Sade Trejo, I think is how you say his name, going to Colorado. Good kid from Arkansas State. Go look at that. I think Colorado definitely could be, when we're thinking of what he could do in that offense with Shedeur, I think that's something to highlight there. With all the Fairweather, we're going to highlight him. But again, from going to Auburn, great pickup. Eric All, but Colin Castle's going to Tennessee. Go look at him. UC Davis kid, big kid, 6'5". He has that frame that you really like. I really like that. Malachi Matavio, he went from Oregon to UCLA. UCLA is quietly tight end U. They've produced very good tight ends there. Malachi is someone that I really like. Like, I really think that he's a very good tight end. He just hasn't gotten a run. Had a few touchdowns and so forth at Oregon. Just never got out of there, especially with the new regime. Just didn't do that. Be on the lookout for this kid. He's going to be a target of mine later in drafts. Austin Stogner, Jalen Franklin, Josh Cuevas. Like, there's guys here. Now, if we're going to highlight anybody, it's got to be my guy, Rivaldo Fairweather. I still think he's going to be a value in your guys' leagues because I just don't think he was going in like late 40, 40th round, 41st, 42nd round. Like, when you're looking at what he's able to do. But when you look at his numbers and just purely what he's done, like, he had 426 yards and did that. Yeah, he had that, but he was a very, very good high school ball player. 40 passes, 812 yards, 15 touchdowns as a senior. Like, when he produced and we actually had targeted, the production was there, right? He was the conference All USA preseason first team, John Mackey Award watch list. Excuse me. So when you're looking at Fairweather, like, he's going to step in there. Now, they need a quarterback. So the biggest thing is Auburn's going to need a quarterback. They haven't gotten one yet. And that's going to be the question mark. What is that going forward? So be on the lookout of that. But I think they picked up a great guy there in Rivaldo. Now, if we're looking at offensive line commits and going through it, here are some top guys for the offensive line. So I think, Johnny Cornelius from Rhode Island is someone that we highlighted going to Oregon. Oregon smash guys in the recruiting pool and the transfer portal. Their NIL is top notch doing that. He picked them over Ohio State, and they needed him. He's got 3 years of experience. He's a big kid, 6'4", 315. There's not a lot of depth of this class in terms of transfer portal offensive line commits, but he is a legitimate prospect. And so Oregon really cleaned up. They also got Junior Aguilar. Jeremiah Byers, Florida State, great pickup there. Spencer Holsted's to UCLA. Again, another good one there. Michigan, you got to highlight them. They picked up 3 very good recruits. They really dived in on the offensive, defensive line in the transfer portal. Drake Nugent is really good. Darius Henderson, Miles Hinton. So Michigan fans, you guys should be excited for what's coming, especially in that interior offensive line, and they were really able to kind of solidify them. I mean, Nugent and Henderson are 2 top 3 guys in this class in terms of, the ratings. And so when you're looking at that, they really did a good job there. Logan Brown also went to Kansas. That's a good pickup for them. And hey, Colorado again, Savion Washington. When they lost Casey Roddick, obviously he went over to Florida State, but they were able to pick up someone to protect, protect Shador, and that's going to be Savion Washington. So that's a really good job. 6'8", 340 kid. He's a massive kid. So be on the look at that. Now, defensive line, when we're looking at what's going on over there, Dasan McCullough is the big one, number one edge, everything in this class when you're looking at what he was able to do at Indiana, and he had good numbers. He was getting recruited by Ohio State prior to going to Indiana. And then this last year, you look at 49 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks. Huge get by Oklahoma. Huge. I mean, that's going to help him on the edge. That's a massive, massive, massive get. Andre Carter, Thomas Gore, Braden Fisk on the bottom down there for Florida State, but he's a very good interior defensive tackle. Josiah Stewart, Michigan again. George Rooks. Look at these guys. They're just building through that offensive defensive line. Pretty much Big Ten. Thomas Gore again. Jacob Lacey. So Oklahoma's picked up 2 of the top 4. You look in there, Devin Phillips for Kansas, Elijah Judy. Look at that. Matt Rule's coming in there, and Oklahoma State again popping up. Oklahoma State has done very well in this portal in terms of what they've been able to do. Now, linebacker wise, what are we looking at? The linebacker position. So top 10. Not a huge lot of depth in this linebacker core. But hey, Justin Wright going to Oklahoma State, and just going through there. UCLA picking up Jake's, Mason Cobb going to USC. That's huge for USC. USC needs linebacker help. They need defensive help all across the board. And getting him and then Jamal Muhammad from, Georgia State, those are 2 big pickups from them. They really prioritize that defense. And so when you think of it as a USC fan, you have to understand that's a good thing, right? When we're thinking of what they're able to do. And then you look at Ernest Hausman, again, Michigan signed up, 6'3", 205 kid from Nebraska, very good pickup there. And so when you're looking at what teams are really standing out, you can notice who prioritized the transfer portal, who didn't. And I think one thing about USC's class, I saw some things being down about USC's class. Remember, they had all those guys commit last year, Malachi Nelson, Zachariah Branch, those guys. And so we didn't see that buzz this year. Had they committed this year, we had been talking about USC's class. I think they did very well in the transfer portal. And you're just looking overall, they did very, very good for themselves. Now, last one here for the secondary commits and what we see here, Travis Hunter's number 1. I mean, Travis Hunter is a legitimate, he's one of the best athletes I've ever seen. I think he's incredible, just watching him play. Now, is he going to be a dual athlete? Is he going to play wide receiver? That's the question mark there. But that's an actually get by Colorado. I mean, Colorado, obviously he was coming anyway, but just in terms of what he was able to do, it's fantastic. Now, LSU also picked up Denver Harris, one of the highest rated cornerbacks in this class. So when you're thinking about him, he's coming over, freshman, 5-star freshman last year. Didn't A&M, obviously that whole situation was a mess. It's a great get by LSU. Gavin Holmes, Texas. Texas needs defense, and they needed corner help, and they got it in Gavin Holmes from Wake Forest. J.K. Hardaway going to Kentucky. You guys, a great grab by them. Now, when we're looking at that safety position, the top-rated safety, when we're going through it, Donovan McMillan going to Pitt. That's a good get for them. Robert Kennedy going to NC State. So overall, not bad. Tony Grimes going to Texas A&M. They kind of get that help there. And then again, hey, look at there, USC in the mold again. So USC able to get a little bit of help there. And Christian Roland Wallace from Arizona, he looked pretty good with this last year. And when we're thinking of 5'11", 198, kind of step in there, really step up for them. I think USC really, just to highlight these guys, they did really well in the transfer portal with what they were able to do. Now, if we're going to go through the team rankings, let's go through the top 5. So we're looking at the top 5 of what we see here, just in terms of stars. Florida State has 7 commits right now in the portal, 5 4-stars. Michigan, 7 commits, 5 4-stars. Colorado has probably the most commits, almost the most commits, 14 commits. They have 1 5-star, 2 4-stars, and 6 3-stars. So when we're thinking of that, Colorado's already in the top 5. Colorado's nowhere ever in these area top 5. That's all Dion, baby, the Dion effect. Then you got LSU, and you're looking at what they did, 7 commits there, 4 4-stars and 2 3-stars. And then rounded out UCLA, 1 4-star, 5 3-star. And then if you want to round out the top 10, even though I didn't put on the list, USC, Arizona State, Oregon, Washington, and Oklahoma State. USC is right there as well, just getting those guys. And it's still early, but you have to give a shout out to Colorado. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love transfer portal. I love this crap. I love college football. And we're going overall. I try to give you guys highlights of everything, talking about hey, this is the guy you shouldn't draft. This is who you should draft. If you're interested in this, if you play college football, you play Devy, follow me on Twitter. You can see my @name, but also, DM me, message me, say, hey, what do you think here? But also follow my Patreon. Underneath, we have our Patreon for the Devy Royale. We're doing all kinds of different content here. We're adding analytics now, so we're going to be diving into those type of things. It's $3 a month. You can afford that. I mean, if you appreciate good content, you appreciate good people. So please hit that like and subscribe button. Let us know in the comments. Do you think Dion crushed it? What do you think of USC's class? Come on, give us some comments and let us know what you guys think. So appreciate you guys.